William Carter was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the country. His company, Carter International, occupied a 30-story glass building in the center of the city. Thousands of people worked for him, and his businesses stretched across technology, construction, hotels, and finance. Newspapers regularly called him a self made billionaire. But William rarely talked about his money. He had learned a difficult lesson during his younger years. Money could not buy comfort, but it could not buy character. William had one child, a daughter named Emily. Emily was 18 years old and had grown up in a world most people could only imagine. She lived in a beautiful mansion. She had access to expenses, cars, private tutors, and every luxury she could possibly want. Yet, William worried about something. Emily was kind, but she had never truly experienced ordinary working life. She had never worried about receiving a salary. She had never stood in a crowded bus. She had never worked at 18-hour shift. She had never experienced what it felt like to be ignored because of the job written on her name badge. William wanted that to change, not because he wanted to punish his daughter, he wanted to prepare her for life. One evening, he sat across from Emily in his study. There is something I want to do, he said. Emily looked curious. What is it? I want you to work at my company. Emily smiled. You won't be working as an executive. Emily frowned. You'll work at the bottom. She stared at him. What do you mean? You'll work as a cleaner. Emily couldn't believe what she had heard. But William had one condition. Nobody at the company would know that she was his daughter. Not the managers, not the employees, not the security guards. Nobody. Emily eventually agreed. The next morning, her expenses clothes were replaced with a simple uniform. Her father handed her an ordinary employee ID. It contained only one name, Emily Carter, cleaning department. She looked at it and smiled. For the first time, nobody would know she was wealthy. For the first time, she would be judged only by her work. She had no idea that this decision would change her life forever. Emily arrived at Carter International early in the morning. The enormous building looked completely different from the inside. When she entered through the employee entrance, hundreds of workers were arriving. Executives walked quickly while talking on their phones. Assistants carried documents, security guards checked identification cards, and cleaners moved quietly through the building. Emily joined the cleaning team. Her supervisor was a woman named Mr. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson looked at Emily's application. First day, Emily replied, yes. She asked, have you worked as a cleaner before? Emily replied, no. Mrs. Thompson sighed. Then today will be difficult. Emily nodded. I'll try my best. Mrs. Thompson handed her a card. Start with the third floor. Emily pushed the car toward the elevator. The first few hours were exhausting. She cleaned offices, she wiped windows, she carried supplies, she emptied trend trash containers. By lunchtime, her arms were tired, but she kept working. At one point, she entered a large office where two employees were discussing a project. They barely looked at her. One of them pointed toward the floor. Clean that. Emily nodded. She cleaned it. Then she left. Nobody thanked her. Nobody noticed her. For the first time, Emily understood something her father had tried to explain. Some of the hardest working people in a company were often at least noticed. Weeks passed. Emily became comfortable with her new job. She learned everyone's routine. She knew which offices became messy after lunch. She knew which employees drank coffee all day. She knew which managers were polite and which ones never looked at cleaning staff. One employee stood out. His name was Daniel. Daniel worked in the accounting department. Unlike many others, he always greeted Emily. Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Daniel. Sometimes he helped move chairs before she cleaned. Sometimes he left a bottle of water for the cleaning staff. It wasn't much, but Emily appreciated it. She also met an elderly security guard named Mr. Harris. He had worked at the company for more than 20 years. Every morning he smiled at Emily. You're working hard, he would say. Emily would smile. So are you. Mr. Harris laughed. People notice the executives. Nobody noticed the guards. Emily replied, I notice you. Those simple conversations became important to her. She began realizing that wealth had created a strange world around her. People often treated others differently depending on their positions. But when Emily wore a cleaner's uniform, she became almost invisible. And that experience changed her. There was one manager everyone feared. Her name was Victoria Blake. Victoria was the company's regional operation manager. She was intelligent, successful, and extremely ambitious, but she had a serious weakness. She judged people by status. She was polite and to executives. She was friendly with the wealthy clients, but she rarely showed respect to employees she considered unimportant. Whenever cleaners entered her office, she expected them to leave immediately after finishing their work. One morning, Emily entered Victoria's office. "Good morning," Emily said. Victoria didn't look up, cleaned the office. Emily began working. A few minutes later, Victoria noticed a small spot on the glass table. "Did you even clean this?" Emily replied, "Yes." Victoria said, "Then why is there a mark?" Emily looked closely. "I'll clean it again." Victoria sighed impatiently. "You people always need to be told everything twice." Emily remained quiet. She cleaned the table again. Victoria didn't apologize. Emily simply continued working. She had learned not to judge people based on the one bad moment. Meanwhile, Mr. Cartier secretly watched his daughter. He had instructed his assistants to give him weekly reports about her progress, but he didn't want special treatment. He wanted reality. One evening, William asked his assistant, "How is Emily doing?" The assistant replied, "She works very hard." Mr. Cartier asked, "Does anyone know who she is?" She replied, "No." "Good." The assistant hesitated. "Sir, why are you doing this?" William looked through the window at the city. "Because one day she will inherit everything I've built." He paused. "And I don't want her to inherit wealth without understanding people." William remembered his own childhood. He had grown up in a small apartment. His father had worked long hours. His mother had cleaned houses to help pay the bills. William had promised himself that if he ever became wealthy, he would never forget where he came from. He wanted Emily to learn the same lesson. Emily had become one of the most reliable workers in the cleaning department. She arrived early, she never complained, she helped other employees, and she often stayed a little longer when someone needed assistance. Then one Monday morning, the company prepared for an important business meeting. Several major investors were visiting. The executives were nervous. Everyone wanted the building to look perfect. Victoria was especially stressed. She walked through the hallway, checking everything. Make sure the conference room is spotless. Check the reception area. Clean the executive floor again. The cleaning staff worked consistently. Emily was assigned to do the executive hallway. She carefully cleaned the floors and tables. Then she noticed a coffee cup sitting near the conference room. She picked it up. At that exact moment, Victoria rushed around the corner. Emily stepped aside, but Victoria was moving too quickly. She accidentally bumped into Emily. The cup fell. Coffee spilled across the floor. Victoria stared at the mess. Then she looked at Emily. "You did that." Emily was surprised. She replied, "You bumped into me." Victoria's expression hardened. "What did you say?" Emily immediately realized that arguing wouldn't help. "I'm sorry. I'll clean it." She grabbed a cloth, but Victoria was furious. "You're always in the way." Several employees stopped to watch. Emily continued cleaning. Victoria's anger grew. Then, in front of everyone, she slapped Emily. The hallway became completely silent. Emily froze. She was shocked, not only because of what had happened, but because of humiliation. For a moment, she thought about revealing everything. She could have called her father. She could have ended Victoria's career with one phone call, but she didn't. She simply looked at Victoria and said, "I hope you never treat another person that way." Then she walked away. What nobody knew was that William Cartier had arrived at the building only minutes earlier. He had been walking toward the executive floor, and he had been seen everything. He stood silently at the end of the hallway. His face was calm, but his expressions were serious. His assistants whispered, "Sir." William raised his hand. "Don't say anything." He watched Emily disappear around the corner. Then he looked at Victoria. "Mrs. Blake." Victoria turned. She suddenly became nervous. "Mr. Cartier." William said nothing for several seconds. Then he asked, "Did you know Emily?" Victoria nodded. "She works in cleaning." William looked at her. "That's not what I asked." Victoria didn't understand. William walked away. "Tomorrow morning," he said, I want the entire senior management team in the conference room. Victoria nodded. She had no idea what was coming. That evening, Emily returned home. She didn't tell anyone what happened. She went directly into her room. A few minutes later, William knocked on the door. Can I come in? Emily knew he already knew. She nodded. William entered. He sat beside her. I saw what happened. Emily looked down. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I didn't want to use your name. William was silent. Emily continued. If I had told everyone I was your daughter, people would suddenly treat me differently. William nodded. You are right. I know. Emily wiped her eyes. Dad, I thought working here would teach me what ordinary employees experience. It has, but I didn't expect people to think that a cleaner deserves less respect. William shook his head. They don't. Emily looked at him. What are you going to do? Williams answered. Tomorrow everyone will learn the truth. The next morning, the company's senior employees gathered in the main conference room. Victoria was there. The department heads were there. The company's lawyers were there. Nobody understood why billionaire owner had called such an unusual meeting. William entered. Everyone stood. Please sit. They sat. William placed a folder on the table. Then he looked toward the door. Emily, come in. The door opened. Emily walked into the room. She was still wearing her cleaning uniform. Several managers looked confused. Victoria stared at her. William stood. This is my daughter. Silence. This is Emily Carter. Everyone froze. Victoria's face changed completely. The woman she had slapped was not an ordinary cleaner. She was billionaire's owner daughter. William continued. For 6 months, my daughter worked in the company without anyone knowing who she was. He looked around the room. She cleaned your offices. She cleaned your meeting rooms. She picked up after you. And many of you never even looked at her. Nobody spoke. William then looked at Victoria. And yesterday, she was physically mistreated. William didn't shout. He didn't insult anyone. His voice remained calm. This is not what this company represents. He looked at everyone. A person's salary does not determine their value. A person's position does not determine their dignity. And a uniform does not give anyone permission to disrespect another human being. Emily stood quietly beside him. William turned toward her. Would you like to say anything? Emily nodded. She looked around the room. For 6 months, I learned more than I expected. She took a breath. I learned that some people are kind when they think you are important. She paused. And some people are even more kinder when they think you are nobody. Daniel looked down with a small smile. Emily continued, I don't want anyone to respect me because I am William Cartier's daughter. I want people to respect every employee because they are human. The room remained silent. Then Mr. Harris, the security guard who had been invited into the meeting, spoke. She is right. Everyone turned toward him. Mr. Harris said, most people don't remember the names of their cleaners or guards, but those people keep the building running. Victoria stood slowly. She looked at Emily. I am sorry. Emily listened. I was wrong. Victoria's voice became quieter. I judged you because of your job. Emily didn't immediately answer. Victoria continued. I thought that because I was the manager, I was more important than you. She looked down. I was wrong. Emily finally replied. An apology doesn't erase what happened. Victoria nodded. I know. But accepting an apology doesn't mean forgetting the lesson. Victoria nodded again. I understand. William then announced that the company would introduce a new workplace respect policy. All employees, from seniors executive to cleaners, would receive the same protection against harassment and mistreatment. The company would also create a system allowing lower level employees to report problems without fear. It wasn't about revenge, it was about changing the culture. After the meeting, William spoke privately with Emily. You have learned enough. Emily smiled. Does that mean I'm finished cleaning? William laughed. If you want to be. Emily thought for a moment. I want to learn more about the company. William nodded. What department? Every department. He smiled. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Over the next year, Emily worked in different parts of the business. She spent time in accounting. She learned about marketing. She observed customer service. She studied management. She even spent time with the company's maintenance workers. She wanted to understand every person who helped make the company successful. Eventually, William gave her a management position, but Emily didn't forget her first job. Years later, Emily became one of the company's youngest executives, but something about her leadership was different. She remembered what it felt like to be invisible. Whenever she walked through the building, she greeted cleaners by name. She spoke with security guards. She asked assistants how they were doing. She visited employees who worked late. Some executives initially thought it was unnecessary. Emily disagreed. Leadership isn't standing above people, she said. Leadership is understanding that people who stand beside you. Her philosophy changed the company. Employee satisfaction improved, people began staying longer, teamwork improved, and the company developed a reputation for treating employee with dignity. One morning, Emily walked through the same hallway where the incident had happened years earlier. She stopped. The hallway looked almost exactly the same, the glass walls, the conference room, the polished floor. But Emily was different. She remembered standing there in a cleaner uniform. She remembered the humiliation. She remembered wanting to tell everyone who she was, and she remembered choosing not to. A young cleaner approached her. Good morning, Miss Cartier. Emily smiled. Good morning. The cleaner looked nervous. Is everything okay? Emily nodded. Yes. Then she said something that you young employee never forget. Never think your job makes less important. The cleaner smiled. Thank you. Emily walked away. Years later, William retired from the company. Emily became its chief executive. At his retirement ceremony, William stood before hundreds of employees. He looked toward Emily. I built this company because I want to create something successful. He paused. But my daughter taught me something. Everyone listened. A company isn't it's about buildings. It isn't its bank accounts. It isn't its cars or offices. A company is its important people. The employee applauded. William smiled. Then he turned toward Emily. When she worked as a cleaner, I thought I was teaching her a lesson. He softly laughed. But she taught all of us one. The room became quiet. Never measure a person by their position. Never assure someone's job tells you their worth. And never forget that respect costs nothing. That evening, Emily stood outside the company's building. The sun was setting behind the city. She looked up at the enormous glass tower. Once she entered that building as a cleaner. Nobody knew her name, her family. But perhaps that was exactly she needed. Because wealth had taught her what money could buy, her experience as a cleaner taught her what money could never buy: respect, humility, empathy, character. A person's true worth is revealed by how they treat others when they have nothing to gain from being kind. And sometimes the most important person in the room is the one everyone else forgot to notice. She left it years later as its leader, but in her heart, she never stopped being the young woman who learned one unforgettable lesson: respect everyone, because you never truly know the story behind the person standing in front of you.